how Pakistan Air Force worked and how it made Pakistan, Pakistani nation, Pakistani Armed Forces proud.
All three services in
Army, Navy and Air
synergy,
Force.
in synergy with each other contested this airspace, sea and land.
India launched hundreds of these drones inside in Pakistan. What was the purpose?
After losing 5 aircraft without causing any damage to PF was a serial morale factor for the Indian Air Force.
Morale went down.
They withdrew from the combat at their manned platforms. This was a fear of the PL-15 that lowered their morale and prevented them from coming further.
Have we learned some lesson from it so that in future we can make more improvement? We can make our defense more powerful.
It will be a very interesting analysis, not only by our side, by the enemy and international analysts. They would have very surprising results for the rest of the world. Look, a much smaller country, much smaller air force, how did it overpower a larger air force?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in Videos English. Dear viewers, you have already witnessed extraordinary developments between India and Pakistan. The way India challenged Pakistan's sovereignty, Pakistan's security. Early in the morning of 10th of May, exactly after Namaz-e-Fajr, Pakistan launched its operation, codenamed Operation Bunyan al-Marsus, and it ended at 4:30 Pakistani time and 5 p.m. Indian time. We can say that the decisive war remained between India and Pakistan for 12 hours. What prompted Pakistan to launch this operation was early night full-scale missile attacks and drone attacks on different locations across Pakistan, which was a severe breach of Pakistan's sovereignty. India challenged Pakistan's security, Pakistan's sovereignty, and ultimately it was not only this particular attack which became immediate treason. There was already last week attack which was also carried out by India, and Pakistani civil and military leadership made it clear that Pakistan will take revenge of this particular barbaric action by India that India took place in Bhawanpur, in Reedke, in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. There are so many points, but finally we will say that India, without investigating Pahalgam incident, within no minutes, leveled baseless allegations against Pakistan. Pakistan offered India investigation, cooperation, but there have been no support. But finally, there have been friendly countries which remain active. Saudi Arabian Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Adil al-Jubair, he was here last night. Iranian Foreign Minister, Mr. Abbas, specially flew from Tehran and met Pakistani leadership, and after 2 days traveled to India, where he met Indian leadership. But his response and his offer to Pakistan was extraordinary. He said Iran stands at this critical time with Pakistan. China was also very active. Chinese ambassador held series of meetings with Pakistani leaders, including telephone calls from Chinese leadership. So Pakistan's friendly countries also played a very decisive, important role. But Pakistan was very clear that Pakistan will take revenge. In today's 10th May's all events, what made Pakistan Air Force proud, how Indian pride was made zero, right? How India, which was proud of its most expensive defense system, how that defense systems, one of its airstrips, airfields were completely destroyed, and how India had been begging before Washington that please help us in ceasefire with Pakistan. To discuss this all and futuristic approach, we are fortunate to have with us one of Pakistan's most finest and bravest past or former fighter pilot, former Vice Chief of Air Staff of Pakistan Air Force, Air Marshal Farhat Hussain Khan. Sir, very warm welcome to Program Insight in Videos English. So,
Thank you very much.
and we interviewed you last week when you said that don't worry. And actually, I was worried, and you said, don't worry, we have PL-15 that made Pakistan proud. Share something with our international audience this 10th May eventful day, how Pakistan Air Force worked and how it made Pakistan, Pakistani nation, Pakistani armed forces proud.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Mateen Saab, actually, while we analyze this entire activity
Episode.
starting from the 6th or 7th of, in fact, 22nd of April, but
Exactly.
when we got into this is purely a false flag operation and meant to indict Pakistan and try the hegemonic approach of being an elder in the region and who wants submission from smaller states, without forgetting that Pakistan is not a smaller state, it's a nuclear state. So this whole episode, it can be, in my view, split into three stages.
Three stages.
Of operation, and before that, of course, the question that what brought us to this place. When we prepare for war, a country like Pakistan, which
True.
does not have offensive designs, it only has one objective: to defend its sovereignty. For Air Force, it is to defend the airspace of Pakistan at all costs. And if challenge, hit the enemy hard enough to cause reasonable damage so that they stay away from us and let us stay. So that is what matters at the end. If you prepare yourself well, and preparation would mean you should have the equipment, and that means the capability. You should know how to use the equipment and how to employ the equipment, that is capacity. Okay. And you should be motivated enough to defend the sovereignty of the country. And the armed forces have to be prepared for that. And so since the question is about the Air Force and the armed forces,
Exactly.
all three services in
Army, Navy, and Air Force.
synergy with each other contested this airspace, sea, and land, and achieved unimaginable results that most of the military analysts will continue to analyze how was it achieved. So in preparation, when you talk of preparation equipment, you talked of the PL-15. This missile was a game changer, like I said last time, and you saw it changing the entire game. This missile came to Pakistan with J-10C, which we bought in 2022. And of course, on the JF-17 Block 3 also. This missile, basically a Chinese long-range hypersonic missile, has a range in excess of 200 kilometers.
200 kilometers.
Which is the highest range in the region that any missile has.
Highest range.
Highest range. It's the longest missile, longest range. So the enemy had a 4.5 newly purchased platform called the Rafale, a pride of the manufacturer as well as the country that is operating. That had a good capability, but not as good as the J-10 and the PL-15. So therefore, we had a clear edge where the J-10 radar would see the enemy aircraft before he could see you.
Wonderful.
See the aircraft before he could see you. Fire before he could fire.
That is amazing, really.
So therefore,
fire before it fires.
That is called first shot capability in air combat. An Air Force having a first shot capability would always come out winners, inshallah. So we had the first shot capability in combat. Enemy, on the other hand, failed to appreciate this. So therefore, the result is in front of you. This is one on the PL-15.
True.
Then, if you look at when the entire operation started, on the first, when we were attacked at various places.
Exactly.
Imagine
6th and 7th of May.
Imagine the encounter. Enemy had
within
pitched,
70 aircraft. That was true?
Yes. Enemy has pitched in of about 70 aircraft. And we only had about 27 aircraft in the area. This battle took place for almost an hour.
An hour?
Almost an hour. This is a very different battle. Where the battle was taking place, you were not knowing you were not seeing the opponents. You were only seeing on the sensors. Now imagine the force ratio: 27 versus 70.
70.
And
huge
27
difference.
Winning. And this was such a serious dent that the enemy could never reconcile with it. Rest of the effort were all to recover some image that they lost in this.
True.
Imagine the international media, the French manufacturer is upset about it.
Or we may say they are in tears.
Their shares are down. The Chinese manufacturer is happy about it.
Ultimately, because their market went up.
The system has been tested in actual operational environment.
This is the important thing.
So
that system was tested.
Now J-10 and J-17 are battle-tested platforms.
That's amazing, really.
So that's the outcome of this. So it was an amazing thing, and I think it would need it's a good analysis after the things are over, as to how did we do it. But there is another thing that mattered that night also, and subsequently also. These are the tangibles that you can see: aircraft, missile. But there were some intangible factors also.
Intangible.
Which is not visible. Of course, tangibles are also tangible and intangible, which is not visible. For instance, command of the cyberspace.
That is very, very important. Command of the cyberspace.
Pakistan Air Force, over a period of 4 years, had built up tremendous cyber capability.
And that was exercised today.
Exercised that day also.
That day also, exactly.
And that is how the 27 overpowered the 70.
70. Okay. Systems were jammed.
Systems were jammed. Other than that, there is, the overall scenario was like the air superiority we enjoyed in 1965. Something like that, if you recall the war scenarios, the Battle over Lahore. And then people used to get out on the streets and watch this aircraft.
Exactly.
And same thing happened last night.
Last night, exactly. People have been out on the roads and streets 2 a.m.
Yes, it has reminded us the spirit of 1965. Tremendous performance from our Air Force and in fact all the three services which has brought us to this stage.
So although Air Marshal Farhat Saab, you said that Pakistan's technological edge, innovation, capability to apply the technology and this fighter jets at a right time, there is no doubt. But what was the purpose of launching massive drone attack inside in Pakistan? After first attack, where Indian Air Force had gone? Although you said that 26 versus 70, and then in today's battle, India launched hundreds of these drones inside in Pakistan. What was the purpose?
Okay, after this battle, actually what happened in this battle was they lost 5 aircraft straight and few drones straight. And the aircraft are 3 of the Rafales, 1 MiG-29 and one Su-30. These are the 3 top-notch aircraft that the Indian Air Force has. After losing 5 aircraft, without causing any damage to PF, was a serial morale factor for the Indian Air Force.
Morale went down.
They withdrew from the combat at their manned platforms, and they took it back as far as trying to stay away from the PL-15 range.
I see.
So the front line bases were almost deactivated, and they went back. So this was a fear of the PL-15 that lowered their morale and prevented them from coming further into us. So therefore, what was the option now? So
Yes.
they went into the unmanned platforms. They started sending UAVs. And now UAV warfare is surely there. It is in these days.
Exactly.
But
Challenging.
these are most of these, not all drones oblique UAVs are smaller in size, lesser weight, and the warhead weight. So it can only cause.
There was warhead.
There were warheads in some. The most of them had the ISR role, that is the information gathering, security information gathering and intelligence info, to plan the missions. They used to come and this is one. Secondly, some of them had a kamikaze role. Kamikaze role means go and hit a target and destroy it. So this was the result of mainly failure of their manned platform campaign. So they went into this. When they went into this, they lost so many of them. Now this was yet another setback. So first setback, lost the fixed wing aircraft. Second setback, they lost about 79 of these drones. Now this was another factor to that. So 2 days spent that, and then when frustrated at 2 different stages, and they went into 3rd stage last night.
So
and the 3rd stage that you...
I would like to seek your comment. One of the most expensive defense system was also destroyed. S-400. I would like to seek your comment that first like to tell our viewers what was this system and how many systems, similar systems India had installed, and then what threats were to our national security, our security from this system, and it is widely believed that it was one of the most secure and most expensive system.
Actually, S-400, basically a Russian system purchased by India a few years back, and it is operated by 3-4 more air forces. It's not easily available even to some of the countries. I think Turks have it, Russians have it, and Chinese have it.
Chinese have it. Only these 3 countries.
There are 2 more, I think, small countries, but basically Russian bloc countries.
How it works?
It is basically an air defense system. A 400 in this means it can shoot up to 400 kilometers.
400 kilometers. It's a big range.
And big range and very potent platform. And it is said that if you get into the envelope, can't exit out of it.
Can't exit out of it.
Exit out.
If you are within its range.
And they had a number of batteries placed at different places. And on top of it was mobile.
Mobile.
Okay. So we knew it was there.
Wonderful.
We challenged it through 2 means. First challenge was through our surface threat, the missile that we stuck today, and it has caused a heavy damage to the Adampur element of the S4.
Adampur.
With this, the corridor was totally clear for us.
Wonderful. After its destruction,
it was clear for us.
The corridor was quite clear.
So the Air Force went in throughout the day, kept bouncing at them because there was no one to defend. They were fighter aircraft had withdrawn. and this S-400 was not available en route to get you. So it was such a big threat, neutralized today with such an aggressive approach. And I think on this account alone, I would like to appreciate all those who were involved in this operation led by the air chief. This was a very daring operation.
S-400 destruction.
Getting into that envelope of 400, you had to go.
As you said, there is no way out.
There's no way out of that. When you get into the envelope has different stages. Heart of the envelope, then boundary of the envelope. When you get into heart of the envelope, it's also hundreds. So it's very effective campaign launched to neutralize that system was successful today, and it lowered once again. Now the aircraft shot down, UAV losses. Here, these losses through cyber warfare, S-400.
That paralyzed Indian electricity distribution system.
Today, in my view, the Indian Air Force command structure was fully paralyzed.
And I would like to have your quick comments that this was from Pakistan Air Force. Military was fighting at line of control and gave a befitting response to India. Brigade headquarters were smashed, destroyed. Many military posts were destroyed. So I would like to specifically ask you, since in the beginning of the interview you mentioned about cyber command system of Pakistan Air Force that paralyzed Indian electricity generation and distribution system. So say a few things that how it went and how it was executed. That finally, that was also big damage to India because its power system was down, completely paralyzed.
Actually, cyber has two portions. One is offensive, the other is defensive. That means when you employ techniques to manage to get into enemy's cyber domain, you also have to defend yourself. So it has two portions.
So threats remains there. You have to defend yourself.
Because the enemy, that's
true.
Whenever we look at the enemy, in my view, we must give him all the credit of being a stronger enemy. But when we get close and hold each other's hand with to fight, then he is to be the weakest person, and we need to overpower. So the cyber is actually, without getting into too much of technical details, these are softwares that penetrate into the enemy's software. Sometimes you cause delay in decision making, sometimes you interrupt the decision making, and sometimes you can call it destruction. Basically, it is making the enemy's systems ineffective at a certain particular time frame. For instance, if you can penetrate this into pilot's circuit of decision making, you delay his decision making. So it is applicable at the command level, at the tactical level, and as well as the field level. So therefore, we in Pakistan had a very strong element of cyber which penetrated into the enemy circuits, and we got hold of all the information as well as we interrupted it there. This sometimes is not a physical damage, but basically interruption of the decision making or operating cycle.
Do we have an anti-missile system in Pakistan?
Anti-missile systems
that can hit BrahMos or any other missile coming from Indian side?
We did intercept a lot of them.
Interception is possible.
Interception, SSM.
Interception and destruction, both?
Yeah, possible.
So other than this, within this 12 hours of this fight, which was one of the most impressive, challenging after 1999 Kargil war, because immediate last war was even 5 years back, Kargil one. Any lesson Pakistan has learned from this thing? The way within few days things developed, emerged, and finally, as you beautifully described, military, navy, and air force synergy. Have we learned some lesson from it so that in future we can make more improvement? We can make our defense more powerful.
Important.
Exactly.
Actually, when we talk of the analysis, I'm sure when this operation takes place, there are people noting everything.
Everything, all dimensions of this.
And after now we through with it, the Air Force, Army, Navy, all three levels, there will be analysis of the whole operations. And therefore, this analysis would lead us to certain results and conclusion.
True.
And then the decisions will be taken as to what were our strengths and where did we go wrong. So analysis has to be done. Any potent Air Force or Army, Navy worth its name should carry out an in-depth analysis and learn lessons out of it. Whether we win it or we faltered somewhere. Because humans fight and you always have some losses of some kind. So therefore, I think it will be a very interesting analysis, not only by our side, by the enemy and international analysts. They would have very surprising results for the rest of the world. Look, a much smaller country, much smaller Air Force, how did it overpower a larger Air Force?
So the message also went across to a number of countries.
The world is,
witnessing.
going to witnessing it. It will have very good analysis for the historians and aviation analysts. So these will come.
1.6 million military, Air Force bigger than Pakistan, as you said last time.
No mathematics can tell you smaller forces winning the bigger forces. There's no mathematics. If you have 27, and how can you win 100 or 70? There has to be something different. It would mean training. It would mean, like for instance, I'll give you one example. Our guys, when they bought the J-10, it was COVID. Indians bought it before that.
True.
Indians went in for 1 year training in Rafale. Okay. And after that, this is the result that they have. Our pilots went for only 4 days.
Only for 4 days?
4 days. Because COVID, you could no
restrictions.
And then there were so many restrictions. And brought the aircraft, the entire training was training up. But the level of training that we have, it is far, far superior than the Indian cycle of training. This is one. Second thing is, you can have anything, but you have to learn to employ. That means the strategic planning and decision making.
Strategic planning and decision making.
Now launching a platform which is far superior but inferior in numbers needs something in the minds. How would I employ which platform where? This is where the role of the commands come.
True.
You can only, like for instance, some commanders say, look, I have lesser numbers, I will only fly defensive missions. And when you fly defensive missions, then there is a good chance the enemy may penetrate into it. So therefore, there has to be some counter-offensive. So employment strategy makes a lot of difference. Then on top of it, actually the meat of the matter is leadership. And the courage with which you go into operations. Don't look back as to what the damages would be.
I would like you to say that where India has a light combat aircrafts, where those aircrafts have gone?
Actually, light combat aircraft LCA is a failed platform.
Failed platform.
Failed platform. It started in 1984. The program started in 1984. Spent billions of dollars and got the first aircraft rollout in 2001. 17 years. 17 years. Took another 15 years to induct the first aircraft in the IAF, 2016. Till today, they have serious manufacturing problems, serious engine problems, because they wanted to have an engine of their own, which was named Kaveri. They wanted to develop their own engine. But without, they did not meet any success in that. So finally they had to purchase an engine from America. And the engine supply is hurting it. The production rate is slow. So they've not been able to produce enough. The net result is they have lesser in number. Secondly, they are unable to meet the IAF requirement of replacing the large fleet. So therefore the IAF is shrinking down from 42 aircraft approved restoration It is now down to about 32. 10 aircraft strength, there is a delta. This was planned to be achieved through LCA. Failure of LCA has brought the Indian Air Force to this stage.
To this stage.
And success of JF-17 is a tremendous thing on our side on this side. Now, if you, the JF-17, we started in 90s. In fact, precisely 94. And the contract was signed in 99. The first aircraft flew in 2003. This is despite our 1999 sanctions on some of the equipment that we were doing. So the first aircraft prototype rolled out in 2003. And we had the first batch in Pakistan of 8 aircraft in 2007. And we have 150 aircraft flying, mashallah. We have sold some aircraft to the international customers. So partners. Imagine we started off in 94, 10 years later than the LCA.
They are far behind us.
And they only have 38 aircraft.
38
or
total.
48. And we have 150 flying plus some exports. So this is a difference of planning into the whole thing. Sticking to your objectives. Our objective was very clear that we also need to replace in the first 21st century, that is 2000 to 2010, we need to replace a fleet of A5, F6 Mirage. This is about 250 aircraft. So the aircraft had to be replaced. So had the Indians. We followed an approach of feet on ground, do what you can do. Don't get into areas that is beyond your capability to design. The Indians went into the approach, everything should be indigenous. So finally, it's an obsolete aircraft, doesn't meet the IF requirement, and our side is far better. And you see today, JF-17 was all over the sky, mashallah.
So whatever is this analysis, do you think Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi will learn from today's biggest defeat and embarrassment? Will he learn lesson, and in future he will not indulge in any such ill-planned adventurism against Pakistan?
Actually, Modi has caused a lot of damage to India in the last few years that he's been. If he had to learn, he should learn lesson from 2019. What was wrong? Their planning was faulty. Their operational employment was faulty. Mirage 2000 type high-tech aircraft purchased from France could not do any damage on ground. This is the place to analyze.
2019.
I don't know whether
2019.
If they had not analyzed it, that means there's something wrong with the leadership. You always learn lesson from whether you're successful or if you fail. You must have lessons drawn to make corrections for subsequent events.
So how you see and comment and analyze this American diplomacy? America remained in touch with New Delhi, with Islamabad, and finally brought a ceasefire. And do you think that the unilateral decisions which India made, India will definitely and subsequently will give concessions to Pakistan? Will India sit with Pakistan on negotiation table? Because defense superiority India has witnessed of Pakistan. Will India sit in the days to come? How you see things taking place in future?
One thing is very clear, 2019 and today. If they don't understand, then it is their
diplomatic language. If they don't understand,
it is their bad luck. They need to understand that Pakistan and its armed forces are structured, trained to defend itself, defend the country. Structured and trained to defend the sovereignty of the country. And there shall not be any compromise on this any time, which must go down the minds of the Indian planners to stay away and from adventures. It was a misadventure in 2019 and even a bigger misadventure now. So it is, they have to learn. That then comes the diplomacy. Looking at this only, I think India was looking for a free hand from the American side. Okay, go ahead, do it. Probably did not get it, that is one. But they also Actually, President Trump is a different man.
Different type of
He's been
politics.
talking of stopping wars,
Exactly.
Ukraine, either of the. So now there's
Shuttle
a war that
diplomacy.
started there right in front. So it was not his domain to have a war around between the two countries. That is one. But उससे अलावा जो हमारी, our side, nobody helps you. Weak side को कोई help नहीं करता.
Oh my goodness, this is...
What has happened in the 3 stages that you see? First day, what the US point was different. Okay, what they said was, don't go that much in taking a revenge.
They even mentioned about terrorists.
Yeah,
That
right? And said Pakistan should cooperate. It was their diplomatic balance was in the favor of the Indian. But today's operations
the political language was totally different.
Totally changed. A reason being, I think Indians make a big mistake of starting with SSMs. Because SSM is not a weapon of tactical choice only. SSM, who knows, is it carrying a nuclear warhead or a non-conventional warhead?
Exactly.
So we had to assume it to be the worst.
Supersonic missiles you are referring to, exactly.
So all such missiles can carry
nuclear
warhead. So हमारे पास क्या assurance है जो आ रही है मोदी साहब इस पे बैठ के आ रही है मोदी इस पे बैठ के आ रहा है या इसमें nuclear warhead है या tactical we had to react. We had to have a system and we reacted. I think today morning the reaction was absolutely justified and this is what the national spirit wanted. Look, this is a day that we were preparing for it. So therefore, today's change in the tone is because of our strength, not because of anything else. In my view, you have to be on your feet and talk from strength when you sit on the table. End of the day, it is always negotiation. So now we'll be inshallah sitting on the table from strength. This is one. Yes, it must be ensured during this process that all they did in the present, at least this should be undone. For instance, the water issue must settle down. And they must have some positive outlook for Kashmir issue. The flashpoint is still there.
Kashmir,
the water
not the
issue
terrorism.
is still there.
Exactly.
Not the terrorism. Terrorism was a false flag. So yes, we need to raise up these issues to stop this in future. If we want to stop in future, we got to resolve the issues.
So resolution of Jammu and Kashmir conflict is key to resolution of all issues.
All the issues. And then so that both countries can progress and the people can benefit from progress.
So I would like to again repeat that it's a wonderful sentence you made. Our strength made their language different. And at the first stage, it was different. So finally, I would like to seek your comment. What is the way forward in future to make our defense, Navy, Air Force, military? The budget is quite near. You have been part of planning and policy making and things like that. And do you think at this time there has to be a justification for increase in defense budget?
First priority of any nation is to look after its people.
Look after its people, security.
Prosperity and well-being.
Health, education, social welfare.
This should always be first priority. That's how the world goes around. Unfortunately, we are engaged into combat. We have some defense. But while we have this threat, we also need to find innovative ways to overcoming the challenges.
Okay.
Increase in budget is only useful if you use it effectively. So in my view, and this is a weakness of the Indian side, and I think we should pick it up at a strength. Indigenization of technologies, achievement of technologies and better weapons, weapon equipment through indigenization is the way forward. Because through indigenization, you cut down the defense expenditure. That's, in my view.
So we should focus more on indigenization of defense capability, technology and these things, so that we may not remain dependent on others.
Yeah, because when you do indigenization, you do most of the work in local currency. When you purchase from outside, you have to spend money. In fact, one of the weakest weakness of the Indian Air Force is maintaining such a large force without indigenization. It's a big challenge for them.
Thank you so much, Air Marshal Farhat Hussain Khan Saab. The first-hand analysis, the way ceasefire took into action or took into effect on 10th of May, early in the morning. Operation started within 12 hours. Then this conflict finally turned into a ceasefire with an American intervention, and you shared many aspects or the areas which were earlier never touched. And I hope that these points at this strategic, insightful discussion would be quite knowledgeable, quite learning, not only for our defense analysts, students, international experts, and for international audience. And thank you so much, dear viewers. Still, you would like to say something?
One last comment like
Please.
to make. I think the success is not of one service. All services have done well.
Wonderful.
But this could not have been possible without support of the nation. The nations fight the war, not the armed forces alone.
Exactly.
So this war,
Nation
has been
support
won
was there.
because of Pakistan. This war has been won by Pakistan as a nation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This war has been won by Pakistani nation. This is the spirit, and this spirit, inshallah, in future, if Indians, as there have been comments that we will take biryani lunch in Lahore, right, their dream will never be fulfilled. Right, inshallah. Till our next program, goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.